I don't think we should be using a statement from Lucian Grange to say we know the details of Drake's recording contract. But I do think it's important to use this moment to point back to the conversations we were just having in regarding Kendrick Lamar's contract, in which UMG had presented Drake's attorneys a copy, but it was heavily redacted. I argued that the full contract being presented to his attorneys run the risk of being leaked. And that is a privacy issue. And we see how people can weaponize, the details of your contract, in these stand wars, and also maybe, just use it against you in business, period. And you see now the way people are weaponizing Lucian Grange's statement alone, not even a full contract. Can you imagine what they would do, right, if Kendrick Lamar's contract were to leak? Now, I am going to go through Lucian's statement and then go one by one and interpret a little bit what I think he's saying in this statement to the court. So this is Lucian Grange's statement that he made to the court, and would be really his first public statement, technically, about this suit. Number two is the one that has people talking, right? I see people using word like 360 deals. I think for the sake of up-and-coming artists, we need to really fully understand a 360 deal is basically the label making money off of everything that you touch. I'm not sure that's what's being described here, but however, I will tell you what I think is being described here. A 360 deal would mean that, like, the label would be making money off of like Drake's deal with Stake, right? It's including everything. But however, what we see here, right, is where Lucian Grange says that, the allegations that he's in sort of, behind his scheme to devalue his brand makes no sense due to the fact that UMG has invested hundreds of $millions into Drake. Okay, so that's number one. They've invested millions of dollars into Drake. Good. You should invest in your artists, including longstanding and critical financial support for his recording career. Now, here's the key part that I see you guys talking about. The purchase and ownership of the bulk of his recording catalog and the purchase of his music publishing rights. Here is my interpretation of that. Okay, so Drake's been in the game for a long time. Okay, this is a general statement that Lucian is going to make, right, to kind of let the court know, hey, this is what we got to invest in him. This is the equity we have in him. Why would we try to devalue him? He's still trying to make his claim as well. So number one, Drake's had a long career. So I think when we talk about the bulk of his ownership of recording catalog, you have to think about the Young Money days. I'm alluding to Young Money, Cash Money. I believe Wayne had sold some, I think there's some ownership there. And I believe Drake was able to go on his own way post 2018, somewhere around 2021. And I think he also may have sold the publishing rights, maybe a piece of it, large one, to Universal, right? And that's probably the nature of his deal. That's not a 360. If you think it's worse than a 360, cool. But this also doesn't give you the exact details of his deal. For me, I want to talk about these things because we got to get shit right, okay? So again, you don't know the full details of his deal, but that is what I can make out of that, right? At one point, most likely his his Young Money, Cash Money days, he had less leverage there, less ownership there, and the ownership that he did have at one point probably signed the publishing, away to Universal at that time. I don't know if it's for forever, it can't be forever, or I don't know how long it's going to be for, etc. Okay, so you get that. Now imagine, see all the conversations we're having about this right now? Imagine if this was the full contract. Good Lord. Now, the next piece that I want to touch on, some of you guys have talked about, is the bottom of number 3, where it says, in light of this responsibility, basically Lucian says, dog, I got all this responsibility. The proposition that I am in the weeds as to the release and promotion of any particular sound recording from 1,000 UMG releases throughout the world is basically BS, is what he's saying. What I will push back there, though, is I remember I did a video where DJ Who Kid said there was a leaked record, right, of push-ups, and Drake himself had leaked it, and he said he was getting calls from labels exec, and he threw Lucian's name in there. For me, I told y'all back then, I was like, Drake being one of UMG's highest earners, I could see any CEO executive seeing that a record is leaking, they got your number. Why the fuck is this record out? Get that record out of there, right? On his spare time. Now, does that mean that he's in the weeds, right? So basically, Lucian's trying to say to you here, hey, dog, like, I'm not conspiring for somebody to make this and do that. That's what he's saying, right? So there's a little pushback there in the terms that maybe he doesn't want to leave himself open to the judge saying, like, yo, I'm aware of everything. But you're clearly aware to some level, then you would just be a bad CEO, right? You're aware to some level. But if you're trying to prove to the judge that you're not scheming Kendrick Lamar and not like us or any diss records, then cool, I guess, my guy. And then just the last piece, again, number 4, he's saying, I like to make it quite clear, I had never heard the recording Not Like Us, nor ever saw the corresponding cover art or music video. So this is where we're at, right? We are in very early stages of this joint, dog. This is going to be these guys, it's Drake's attorneys, UMG's attorneys, depositions, document requests. And, I've been trying to say, like, dog, maybe we should just let the whole shit cook. But every time something new comes out that I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but I don't think we all should drive ourselves mad because this is how civil litigation, like, it's tiring. It's going to need a lot of stamina. It's going to be a lot of BS, but everybody's claiming a win here, a loss there. Oh, your contract sucks. So yeah, we're in for a long battle. And lastly, on this topic, same thing when we're talking Not Like Us. I see a lot of y'all have heard Good Riddance, that Drake was beefing with Aristo. I'm glad y'all going back to the throwbacks. You should also go look up Good Night and Good Luck. That was somebody he beefed with way back in his early Toronto days. I think like Room for Improvement days or something like that. If you guys want to use that as a gotcha moment, and like, oh, he was saying Aristo was chasing 17-year-olds. I'm not going to do that because I don't need that, right? I don't need a reason to justify, the escalation of this battle. I refuse to have to justify, oh, if Drake has said, grooming lines to someone before, then Kendrick can't. No. The reality is battle started, escalation. He brought family into it. He was warned. Kendrick escalated and said, this is what I'm going to do if you do that. I don't need Aristo's song. I can stand on that. And I do stand on that. In my What's Beef doc that's out now on the tube. You go ahead and check that out, man. I'm out of here.